This video is brought to you by Greater Commons. Greater learning, greater opportunities, greater life. Visit us at greatercommons.com.
An interface is if you have some kind of... So interfaces define behavior. So let me just talk about interfaces for a second. You already use interfaces. You just don't know it, right? So if you needed... what's something that... If somebody's wild, they're wild, man, that dude's wild. I partied with that guy one night, man, he is wild. Like, what comes to mind as somebody who's wild? What do they do?
Wake up and yell the next day.
Huh? Okay, they're loud. That's a good one. They drink a lot, right? Right? So anybody who has those behaviors fulfills that interface, right? The wild interface, if you have the behaviors of loud and drinking, man, you're going into that category. You are of type wild. You're wild. Like, how many times you said that to somebody? Man, you're wild, right? Like, they fulfilled some interface in your head defined as wild because they had certain behaviors. And you said, you're wild. What about if somebody's a tough guy? Right? Tough guy interface. What kind of behaviors do they need?
Aggressive.
Aggressive. Attitude. Right? And then you're somewhere and you see somebody smacking off at the gas station, somebody else, and you're like, that guy's a tough guy. Thinks he's a tough guy, like under your breath because you don't want him to come over and start talking smack to you, right? You're like, this guy thinks he's a tough guy. You know, but he fulfilled the tough guy interface. There's certain behaviors he has. And you know, and you say, oh, you're of type tough guy, right? And so interfaces define behavior, and we already use them. Give me another example of an interface you use and the behaviors it defines.
Anal retentive.
Anal retentive interface. What are the behaviors to fulfill the anal retentive interface? Strict, right? And orderly.
Obsessive.
And a little obsessive. Make sure you put that away if you take that out. Right? So strict, obsessive, right? And then they fulfill the anal retentive interface. And you see somebody with those behaviors, you go, man, that dude's of type anal retentive. And so it's the same thing here. Interfaces define behavior. Type, and then we give it some sort of identifier, human, and we say it's interface. And then we give it curly braces. So just like type, person, struct, right, where the first thing we're defining a type, and then we give it a name, and this is the name of my new type, and then we tell it the underlying type, the thing that falls after it. So type person, the underlying type is what? Type person, the underlying type is what? Struct. Type human, the underlying type is what?
Interface.
Interface, okay? And I had type hot dog up there earlier, and the underlying type was in. So we get to create types in Go. And that's part of how we get creative and build stuff. And start doing like black belt jujitsu coding things, which people are like, whoa, check you out. Because you're fulfilling the coding interface. Coding interface has behavior of black belt jujitsu coding ability. And you're like, whoa, man, you're fulfilling the coding interface. So interfaces define behavior. And so we could say that anybody who has this method is a human. Cool, man, you speak, you're human. Because I ain't ever met a dog that talks. They bark, but I've never met a dog that talks. I ain't ever met a shark or a snake or a rock or a boat or... Oh, I was going to say a car, but cars do talk. Let's put talk and walk, right? Okay, you got to have two behaviors to be human. You got to talk and walk. Okay, now you're human. But we'll just leave it with speak. Okay? And so now, P1 is of type person, and it is of type human. Woo! Check that out. P1 is of two types. Just like a person could be, you know, type human and type tough guy, they could be of two types. or type human and type anal retentive. They could have two types. We create programming languages to model the real world as closely as possible, right? Values can be of more than one type. This allows us to do some interesting things with our code to make our code more reusable. So what can we do if something is of two different types? Func and foo, I don't know what else to call it, is going to take in a human. And then we could just format print line H. Cool. So now we could do foo H. Sorry, foo P1, because that's a human. And both these people are humans because they have the method speak. Right here, type person has the method speak. If you have the method speak, you're fulfilling the human interface, baby. Woo! An interface says, baby, if you've got these methods, I'm your type. No, you're my type. An interface says, baby, if you have these methods, you're also my type. No questions. Oh, hate that. Your teeth grind together. It's like chalk. Fingernails on the chalkboard for me. Foo P1, foo P2. They could both go in there because they're type human. That's what this wants. And I'm going to run it, and we're in O3. So printing out McLeod and Bond there, right? Get rid of those for a second. Now the thing that's interesting about that, this doesn't have to make logical sense. Or we'll do this. What type is this? What type is C1?
Car.
Cool. What else?
Struct.
Underlying type struct. What else? C1 is of what type?
Technically human.
It is human. C1 is human. Why? Because C1 is of type car. Type car has the method speak. If you have the method speak, you are also this type. And so now I could do this. Woo-hoo! And that's what people in computer science call polymorphism. Poly many, morph change, right? I could have my code do different stuff. I could have it take in different types. If I run it, red prints out the car stuff. So that's those are interfaces, and you got to understand the fundamentals of interfaces. You don't have to really use them a lot. But you just got to understand, like, oh, it's an interface. If you have these methods, you're its type. Like, you got to get that when we start talking the web programming thing. So funny when you teach programming and you like kind of bring concepts. Okay, you guys following me, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, I'm gonna have to meditate on that one. Like the room gets still. So you're gonna be responsible for, like, I want you to be responsible for all this. I want you to do it next week. It's not that bad. It's just like, oh shoot, okay, I define type person, it's a struct. You know, I define type human, it's an interface, and if you have these methods, then you fulfill that. You're also that type. And I type car to struct. I attach the speak method to person. I attach the speak method to car. Now they're both got the speak method, so any value of type car, type person is also type human. I create a function to take type human in, and then I do all that. This code right here, 03, you got to recode all that in class next week. Okay? Because what I want you to get to is being able to do things like down here, and we're going to jump through a lot of this stuff. If you are diligent and if you have the desire and if you want to get to a 6-figure income, which you could be there in 2 years, you will take my Golang Web Dev class. And you've got the URL for that, but if you're just watching this video on whatever, YouTube, go to greatercommons.com, and there's the URL. And it should be up in a couple of weeks. You should be able to get the course there. And if it's not up yet, you could go to Udemy Todd McLeod. And at Udemy Todd McLeod, you'll find my Golang Web Dev course. But go take that class and start working through everything. And then by the end of it, when you two-thirds of the way through it, you'll be able to do stuff like right here, MongoDB.